The massive chamber of Nexus Prime Station buzzed with alien voices. 12 different species sat in their floating seats, all looking down at the small group of humans standing in the center. The air smelled strange, filled with the breathing gases that each alien race needed to survive. Ambassador Lee Taman stood straight in his dark blue uniform. His black hair was perfectly combed and his face showed no emotion. Behind him stood Dr. Park Minji, a woman with kind eyes who had spent years studying alien cultures. Captain Kim Do-hyun kept his hands at his sides, ready for anything. His military training made him notice every exit and threat in the room. The Galactic Council had ruled space for over 3,000 years. Each member species controlled hundreds of worlds and billions of lives. They had invited humanity to apply for membership after humans developed faster-than-light travel just 5 years ago. Counselor Veltar spoke first. He was a Veltari, tall and thin with blue skin that shimmered like metal. His voice was cold and sharp. Humans of Earth, you come before us seeking membership in our great civilization. We have reviewed your primitive world and found it lacking. The other counselors made sounds that might have been laughter. A Zephyrian with 6 arms waved them dismissively. Their technology is so basic. Look at their ships. They use chemical rockets to reach orbit, and their weapons, added a Krogan with thick armor plates covering his body. Projectile weapons that throw metal pieces. How quaint, Dr. Park Minji stepped forward. Honorable council members, our technology may appear simple, but it is effective. Our FTL drive can cross the galaxy in weeks, not months like your ships. This caused an uproar. Several aliens spoke at once, their translators creating a wall of sound. Veltar raised one thin hand for silence. Dr. Park, you misunderstand. We are not here to debate the merits of your crude inventions. We are here to give you the terms for joining our civilization. Lee Taman had negotiated treaties with every major nation on Earth. He had ended 3 wars and prevented 2 others. But nothing had prepared him for this level of arrogance. We are honored to hear your terms, Counselor. First, Veltar began, reading from a crystal tablet. All human military forces must be disbanded. Your weapons are dangerous to yourselves and others. We will provide security for your worlds. Captain Kim Do-hyun's jaw tightened, but he said nothing. Second, all human technology must be shared with the Council. We will decide what you may keep and what must be improved by our superior knowledge. Third, humans will accept junior species status for 500 years. During this time, you may not vote on council matters or establish independent trade relationships. Dr. Park Minji looked shocked. 500 years? That's 20 human generations. Your species is young, said the Zephyrian. You need time to learn proper civilization. Most species require this learning period. Fourth, Veltar continued, Earth will pay tribute of 10% of your global production to support council operations. This includes food, materials, and manufactured goods. And finally, you will relocate your capital to a world we choose. Earth is too far from the galactic center to be practical. The chamber fell silent. Lee Taman felt the weight of his species' future on his shoulders. Around him, alien eyes watched with amusement, expecting quick acceptance. These terms seem comprehensive, Lee Taman said carefully. May I ask what benefits humanity would receive in return? Veltar looked surprised by the question. You would be part of the Galactic Council, of course. You would have our protection and guidance. What more could a primitive species want? And if we refuse these terms? The Krogan counselor laughed, a sound like grinding rocks. Then you remain isolated. No trade, no technology sharing, no protection. When the raiders come for your worlds, you will face them alone. The raiders? Dr. Park Minji asked. Space pirates, explained a counselor who looked like a giant insect. They attack unprotected worlds, stealing everything of value. Only council members receive our protection. Lee Taman nodded slowly. I see, and how long do we have to consider these terms? 72 hours, Veltar announced. After that, the offer expires permanently. No second chances. The human delegation was escorted from the chamber. As they walked through the station's corridors, aliens stared at them with curiosity or contempt. Some pointed and whispered to their companions. Back in their quarters, the 3 humans sat in silence for several minutes. Finally, Dr. Park Minji spoke. They're treating us like children. Worse than children, Captain Kim Do-hyun said. Like pets they're willing to feed if we're obedient enough. Lee Taman stood by the window looking out at the stars. Did you notice what they didn't mention? What do you mean? Dr. Park Minji asked. They want our technology, but they call it primitive. They want our tribute, but claim we need their protection. They want to control our military while insulting our weapons. Lee Taman turned to face his companions. These are not the terms of partners. These are the demands of conquerors. Captain Kim Do-hyun nodded grimly. Back home, we'd call this an ultimatum, not a negotiation. Dr. Park Min-ji pulled up her tablet and began typing. I've been studying the Council's history. Something doesn't add up. They claim to protect member species from raiders, but I found records of 12 species that were granted membership in the last century. Everyone accepted similar terms to what they offered us. And? Lee Taman prompted. None of them ever advanced beyond junior status. The Kethri have been learning civilization for 200 years. The more done for even longer. It's like the Council uses the learning period to keep species dependent. A chime sounded, indicating an incoming message. Lee Taman accepted it and Veltar's image appeared on the screen. Human Ambassador, I hope you are considering our generous offer. Perhaps I should mention that several Council members questioned whether to make this offer at all. Many believe humans are too aggressive and unpredictable for civilized society. Lee Taman kept his voice level. We appreciate the Council's consideration. Of course you do. I expect your acceptance within the time limit. Good day. The connection ended. Captain Kim Do-hyun shook his head. That wasn't a negotiation. It was a threat. Dr. Park Min-ji was still reading her tablet. Ambassador, there's something else. The species that refused Council membership. I can't find any records of them after their refusal. What do you mean? I mean they disappeared. No trade records, no communications, no sightings. It's like they vanished completely. Lee Taman felt a chill run down his spine. The Council wasn't just arrogant, they were dangerous. And humanity had just 72 hours to decide whether to become their slaves or their enemies. Outside the window, the stars continued to shine, indifferent to the choice that would determine humanity's future among them. The human ship Soul's Pride drifted silently in space, far from Nexus Prime Station. In the main conference room, Ambassador Lee Taman sat with his team around a metal table. The room was simple and clean, very different from the fancy alien chambers they had just left. Dr. Park Min-ji was typing rapidly on her computer. Captain Kim Do-hyun cleaned his sidearm, a habit he had when thinking hard. Through the large window, Earth's blue and white surface was visible in the distance. Show me what you found, Lee Taman said to Dr. Park Min-ji. She turned her screen toward the others. I've been digging through the databases we brought. The Council's history is darker than they want us to know. Pictures of different alien species appeared on the screen. These 12 species all joined the Council in the last 200 years. Every single one is still listed as junior status. 200 years, Captain Kim Do-hyun said quietly. That's not learning time. That's permanent slavery. Dr. Park Min-ji nodded. It gets worse. Look at this economic data. Charts and numbers filled the screen. The junior species provide 80% of the Council's raw materials and food. In return, they get protection and guidance. Lee Taman studied the information. What about the species that refused? That's the scary part. I found records of 7 species that turned down Council membership in the last 3 centuries. Within 50 years, all contact with them stopped. No trade, no communications, nothing. Maybe they moved to different parts of the galaxy, Captain Kim Do-hyun suggested. I thought so too, until I found this. Dr. Park Min-ji pulled up a star map. Red dots marked various locations. These are the home systems of those species. Deep space probes have visited 3 of them. The worlds are empty. No cities, no technology, no life. Just dead planets. The room went silent. Lee Taman felt his stomach tighten. You're saying the Council destroys species that refuse to join? I'm saying species that refuse to join have a habit of disappearing, Dr. Park Min-ji replied carefully. A chime indicated an incoming priority message from Earth. Lee Taman accepted it, and Admiral Yoon Ji-hai appeared on the screen. She was a stern woman with gray hair and sharp eyes. Ambassador, we've been monitoring your situation. What's your assessment? The Council's terms are unacceptable, Admiral. They're demanding complete surrender disguised as membership. I figured as much. I have some information that might help your decision. Admiral Yoon Ji-hai's image was joined by 2 other people. Director Choi, Wonho from Intelligence Services and Engineer Bae Suman from the Technology Division. Director Choi Wonho spoke first. We've been analyzing the alien ships around Nexus Prime. Their technology isn't as advanced as they claim. Their FTL drives are actually slower than ours, and their weapons use outdated energy systems. But they've been in space for thousands of years, Dr. Park Minji said. Engineer Bae Sumin smiled. That might be the problem. They've been using the same technology for so long that they stopped innovating. Look at this. She held up a tablet showing technical diagrams. Their ship designs haven't changed in 800 years. They just make them bigger. What about our weapons? Captain Kim Do-hyun asked. They called them primitive. Their mistake, Admiral Yoon Ji-hai said. Our primitive kinetic weapons punch through their energy shields like they're not there. Their plasma weapons look impressive, but they're slow and power-hungry. In a real fight, our ships would have significant advantages. Lee Taemin leaned back in his chair. So they're not as powerful as they pretend to be. Correct, Director Choi Won-ho confirmed. But they've built their reputation on intimidation and the threat of overwhelming numbers. Most species surrender before fighting begins. Dr. Park Minji looked up from her computer. There's something else? I found records of the Kethri homeworld before they joined the Council. They had a thriving space program and colonies on 6 worlds. Now they're restricted to their home system and can barely feed their population. The Council keeps them weak on purpose, Captain Kim Do-hyun realized. Exactly. They prevent member species from developing advanced technology or expanding their territories. It's not protection, it's control. Admiral Yoon Ji-hai's expression was grim. So what's your recommendation, Ambassador? Lee Taemin stood and walked to the window. Earth looked so peaceful from here, but he knew that beneath that blue surface were 8 billion people counting on his decision. How long would it take to recall our delegation ships and prepare Earth's defenses? 12 hours for the recall, 72 for basic defensive preparations, Admiral Yoon Ji-hai replied. But Ambassador, are you seriously considering refusing the Council? I'm considering our options. Lee Taemin turned back to his team. What would happen if we accepted their terms? Dr. Park Minji pulled up more data. Based on the pattern with other species, we'd lose our military within a year. Our technology would be shared with the Council, but improved versions wouldn't be shared back. Within a decade, Earth would be dependent on Council food and materials. Within 50 years, we'd be another junior species working to support their empire. And if we refuse, they'll probably try to make an example of us, Captain Kim Do-hyun said. The question is whether we can defend ourselves long enough to find alternatives. Engineer Bae Sumin spoke up from the screen. Ambassador, there's something else you should know. Our deep space surveys have found evidence of other species living outside Council space. Not all aliens are part of their empire. Independent species. Yes, they're smaller groups, maybe only a few worlds each, but they're free. Some of them might be willing to trade or form alliances if we can contact them. Lee Taemin felt a spark of hope. So we wouldn't necessarily be alone. No, sir. The galaxy is bigger than the Council wants anyone to believe. Director Choi Won-ho added, Our intelligence suggests that the Council's grip on power isn't as strong as they pretend. Several member species have growing independence movements. They're just waiting for someone to show that the Council can be defied. Lee Taemin made his decision. Admiral, recall all our ships to Earth immediately. Begin defensive preparations, but don't make them obvious. I want the Council to think we're still considering their offer. What are you planning? Dr. Park Minji asked. We're going to do something the Council doesn't expect. Lee Taemin's voice was calm but determined. We're going to say no, Captain Kim Do-hyun grinned. About time. What's our cover story? No cover story. We're going to be completely honest. Lee Taemin sat back down at the table. In 6 hours, I'm going to contact the Council and give them our answer. We thank them for their offer, but humanity chooses to remain independent. They'll threaten us, Dr. Park Minji warned. Let them. Threats only work if you're afraid. Lee Taemin looked at each of his companions. For 3,000 years, the Council has convinced species that joining them is the only option. It's time someone proved them wrong. Admiral Yoon Ji-hai smiled from the screen. I'll have our fastest ships ready to bring you home, Ambassador. Things might get interesting once you deliver that message. I'm counting on it, Lee Taemin replied. It's time the galaxy learned that humanity doesn't bow to bullies. The meeting ended, and the Soul's Pride began preparing for departure. In a few hours, the balance of galactic power would begin to shift, though none of them realized just how much the universe was about to change. Captain Seo Hyunwoo stood on the bridge of the exploration ship New Horizon. watching as another green and blue world appeared on the main screen. It was the third habitable planet his crew had found this month, and according to the surveys, it had no intelligent life to complicate colonization. Atmosphere is perfect for human life, reported his science officer, Lieutenant Zhang Mira. Fresh water, fertile soil, and no dangerous predators. It's like someone designed it for us. 6 months had passed since Ambassador Lee Taman delivered humanity's rejection to the Galactic Council. The alien response had been swift and predictable. Complete isolation. No council ship would trade with humans, communicate with them, or even acknowledge their existence. But instead of collapsing as the council expected, humanity had thrived. Mark it as Colony Site 7, Captain Seo Hyunwoo ordered. Send the coordinates to Earth Command. They'll want to start the first colony ships within a month. The isolation had forced humans to become completely self-reliant, and they discovered they were better at it than anyone imagined. Without council restrictions on where they could go or what they could explore, human ships spread across the galaxy like seeds on the wind. Dr. Zhang Yura was leading one of the most successful projects. On the research station orbiting Mars, she had developed new terraforming technology that could make almost any planet suitable for human life. Her methods were faster and cheaper than anything the Council used. The atmospheric processors are working perfectly, she reported to Director Kim Junho during their weekly meeting. We can transform a dead world into a garden in 5 years instead of 50. What about cost? Director Kim Junho asked. 90% less than Council methods. We use bioengineered organisms instead of massive machines. It's like teaching the planet to heal itself. But the biggest surprise came from humanity's contact with non-Council species. Trader Nam Kiwan was the first human to make contact with the Kethri refugees. He found them hiding in an asteroid field. Refugees from their own homeworld after the Council had restricted their population and resources. The Kethri were a peaceful species with 6 arms and purple skin who had once been master craftsmen. You're not from the Council? Asked Elder Keth Marin when Nam Kiwan's ship approached their hidden base. No, we're humans. We're new to this part of space, Nam Kiwan replied through his translator. We're looking for friends, not subjects. The Kethri had been afraid at first, expecting another species that would try to control them. But Nam Kiwan offered them something revolutionary. Fair trade with no political strings attached. You want to trade your technology for our crafts? Elder Keth Marin asked in disbelief. What do you want in return? Loyalty, tribute, military service. Just friendship and honest dealing, Nam Kiwan said simply. We have medical supplies and food. You have beautiful artwork and skilled workers. Let's help each other. Within weeks, the Kethri had become humanity's first alien allies. They shared the locations of other hidden refugee groups throughout the galaxy. Species that had escaped Council control or had never been conquered. The Morden were next. These bear-like creatures were fierce warriors who had fought the Council to a standstill for decades. When Captain Ojisiok's patrol ship encountered a Morden vessel under attack by Council forces, he didn't hesitate. This is Captain Ojisiok of the human ship Thunder. Council vessels withdraw immediately or face the consequences. The Council commander laughed over the radio. Silly humans, this is not your concern. These criminals have violated Council law. The only criminals I see are the ones attacking a smaller ship 3-1, Captain Ojisiok replied. I'm giving you 10 seconds to withdraw. The brief battle that followed shocked everyone involved. Human weapons tore through Council shields like paper, and their ships moved with impossible speed and precision. Within minutes, one Council ship was destroyed and the other 2 were retreating. Commander Mordun Grath couldn't believe what he had witnessed. Human vessel, why did you help us? We are nothing to you. Because it was the right thing to do, Captain Ojisiok said. No one should face 3-1 odds alone. That rescue led to an alliance with the Morden clans, who controlled several star systems on the galaxy's edge. They became humanity's military, advisors, and provided intelligence about Council weaknesses. But the real breakthrough came when mediator Han Yunji successfully negotiated peace between the Zelani and the Koraks. These 2 species had been fighting for 50 years over mining rights in the Vale Nebula. The Council had refused to mediate, claiming the conflict kept both species weak and dependent. The solution is simple, Han Yunji explained to both sides during the peace talks. Share the nebula. The Zelani need the rare metals in the outer regions. While the Korax want the energy crystals in the inner zones, you're not even competing for the same resources. But the council said we couldn't share, protested Zelani speaker Velmira. They said one species must dominate the other. The council profits from your conflict, Han Unji replied. They sell weapons to both sides and buy your resources at war prices. In peace you could trade directly and both prosper. The peace treaty was signed within a week, and both species immediately applied to join humanity's growing alliance. Word of the successful mediation spread throughout the galaxy. Meanwhile, on Earth, Admiral Yoonji Hai was dealing with an unexpected problem: too much success. We have 17 species requesting formal alliances, 12 asking for military protection, and 31 wanting trade agreements, she reported to the Global Council. We're running out of ships and diplomats. President An Chae-young smiled at the problem. 6 months ago, the Galactic Council told us we'd be alone and defenseless. Now we have more allies than we can handle. It's because we treat them as equals, explained Dr. Park Minji, who had become Earth's chief alien relations advisor. The Council demands submission. We offer partnership. The difference was becoming obvious throughout the galaxy. Council member species began asking uncomfortable questions about why they couldn't trade with these helpful humans. Pirates, who had avoided human space after several devastating defeats, began targeting Council worlds instead. On Nexus Prime Station, Councillor Veltar was facing a crisis he had never imagined. 3 member species had formally requested permission to establish trade relations with humanity. When denied, they had threatened to leave the Council entirely. This is impossible, Veltar raged to his fellow councillors. They're just humans. Primitive newcomers with crude technology. Primitive newcomers who destroyed 3 of our patrol fleets, pointed out Councillor Zafara nervously. And their technology seems to work better than ours. It's their diplomacy that's dangerous, added Councillor Krogash. They're turning our own members against us with promises of equality and fair trade. Reports continued to pour in from across Council space. Human ships were appearing everywhere, offering medical aid to plague-stricken worlds, protecting merchant vessels from pirates, and mediating disputes that the Council had ignored for decades. The most shocking report came from the border regions, where Admiral Lim Jae-wook had led a humanitarian mission to the Kethri homeworld. The Council had restricted their population to 3 billion and limited their food production to keep them dependent. Admiral Lim Jae-wook's fleet arrived with cargo ships full of food, medical supplies, and terraforming equipment, but instead of just delivering aid, they offered something revolutionary: transportation to new worlds where the Kethri could live freely. You would help us leave our homeworld? Asked Elder Keith Marin in amazement. If that's what you want, Admiral Lim Jae-wook replied. Every species deserves the right to determine its own future. Within days, millions of Kethri were requesting passage to human allied worlds. The Council's attempt to keep them weak and dependent was crumbling. But the most devastating blow came when the Skeltari Hive, previously neutral, announced a formal defense pact with humanity. The Skeltari controlled dozens of worlds and commanded massive fleets. Their decision to ally with humans instead of the Council sent shockwaves throughout the galaxy. As the year ended, humanity had gone from isolated outcasts to the center of a growing alliance that included over 40 species. They had built a network of trade, mutual defense, and cultural exchange that was everything the Council pretended to be but never was. And in the depths of space, human exploration ships continued their work, finding new worlds and new friends among the stars. The emergency session of the Galactic Council was unlike any in its 3,000-year history. Instead of the usual 12 members, only 6 remained. The ornate chamber felt empty and cold, with half the floating seats dark and abandoned. Councillor Veltar's blue skin had lost its shimmer and looked pale under the harsh lights. His hand shook slightly as he read the latest reports. The Zelani and Korax have formally withdrawn from the Council. They cite irreconcilable differences in governing philosophy as their reason. That makes 3 defections this month, said Councillor Zafara, her 6 arms gesturing nervously. First the Altarians, then the Nexari, now these 2. At this rate, we'll have no members left by year's end. Councillor Krogash slammed his armored fist on his chair's controls. This is all because of the humans. They're poisoning our members against us with their promises of equality and freedom. Their promises they actually keep, muttered Councillor Hivemind. the insectoid representative who rarely spoke. When humans offer aid, they deliver it. When they promise protection, they provide it. When they negotiate trade deals, both sides benefit. The uncomfortable silence that followed was broken by an aide rushing into the chamber. The young Veltari male's breathing was rapid, and his skin flickered with stress patterns. Counselors, urgent report from the Outer Rim. The human fleet has engaged and defeated the Corvallian raiders. Veltar looked up sharply. The Corvallians? But they have over 200 ships. How many humans were involved? 20 ships, sir. The battle lasted less than an hour. The raiders' flagship was destroyed and the survivors have scattered. Counselor Zephyra's arms fell limp. 20 ships defeated 200? That's impossible. I'm afraid there's more, counselors. Commander Ojishuk, who led the human force, broadcast a message throughout the sector. He declared that all worlds under human protection are safe from pirate attacks, and any raiders who continue their activities will be hunted down. Krogash stood up angrily. The arrogance. They have no authority to make such declarations. Actually, sir, they do, the aide said quietly. 47 worlds in that sector have signed mutual defense pacts with the Human Alliance. Legally, the humans are authorized to protect those systems. The implications hit the Council like a physical blow. For centuries, they had used the raider threat to keep member species dependent on Council protection. If humans could eliminate the raiders entirely, that leverage would disappear. What about our own military response? Veltar demanded. Surely our fleets can handle a few human ships. The aide's skin pattern showed extreme distress. Sir, Admiral Kethanel attempted to intercept a human convoy near the Vale Nebula. His fleet of 15 vessels encountered 5 human ships escorting Mordoon traders. And Admiral Kethanel's flagship was destroyed. The remaining ships surrendered after their shields failed. The humans captured our crews but treated them well. They're being returned to us with a message from Admiral Lim Jaewook. What message? That the Human Alliance seeks peace with all species, but will defend its friends against any aggression. He also included technical specifications showing how easily human weapons penetrate our shields. Counselor Hivemind made a sound like grinding metal. They're telling us our military is obsolete. Worse than that, said Zephyra. They're proving it. Over the past year, every direct confrontation between Council and human forces had ended in disaster for the Council. Human ships were faster, their weapons more effective, and their tactics superior. But the military defeats were only part of the problem. The real crisis was economic. 3/4 of the Council's raw materials had come from member species that now traded with the Human Alliance instead. Food production had dropped by 60%, as worlds redirected their crops to human markets that paid better prices. The Kethri situation is completely out of control, reported the aide. Over half their population has relocated to worlds in human space. The remainder are demanding independence from Council oversight. Granted, said Counselor Hivemind suddenly. What? Veltar stared at his colleague in shock. Grant them independence. If we try to hold them by force, we'll look like oppressors. The humans will intervene and we'll lose another fleet. We can't just let member species leave whenever they want. Can we stop them? Hivemind asked bluntly. The Altarians asked for permission to withdraw from the Council. When we refused, they simply declared independence and asked for human protection. Within days, human ships were patrolling their space. What could we do? The truth was painful but undeniable. The Council's power had always been based on intimidation and the threat of overwhelming force. But humans had proven that force could be resisted, and their success encouraged others to try. Perhaps we should consider negotiating with the humans, suggested Zephyra carefully. Maybe we can reach some accommodation. Veltar's skin flashed angry red. Negotiate? We are the Galactic Council. We don't negotiate with primitives. These primitives control more worlds than we do, Krogash pointed out grimly, and their alliance grows stronger every day while ours crumbles. The aide cleared his throat nervously. There's more, counselors. Intelligence reports indicate that the humans are developing new technologies at an unprecedented rate. Their terraforming methods are decades ahead of ours. Their medical techniques have eliminated diseases that our scientists still struggle with. How is that possible? Veltar demanded. They've only been in space for 5 years. Because they share everything freely among their alliance members, Hivemind explained. When the Kethri showed them improved manufacturing techniques, humans combined them with Morden metallurgy and Zilani energy systems. Each species contributes their best knowledge and everyone benefits. That's chaos, Veltar protested. There must be control. Order, hierarchy. Their system seems to work better than ours, Zephyra said quietly. Another aide rushed into the chamber, this one breathing heavily. Counselors, emergency report from the core worlds. The Thalassian Republic has announced they're leaving the council immediately. The Thalassians were one of the oldest and most powerful council members. Their departure would be catastrophic. On what grounds? Veltar asked weakly. They cite our failure to maintain peace and security in council space. Pirate attacks have increased 300% in the last 6 months, while human-protected worlds have had 0 incidents. The pirates are targeting us because the humans drove them out of their territory. Krogash roared. That's exactly the Thalassians' point, sir. The humans solved the pirate problem for their allies. We've failed to solve it for ours. Veltar slumped in his chair. The council was falling apart and he was powerless to stop it. Every decision they made seemed to backfire, while the humans succeeded at everything they attempted. Sir, the aide continued hesitantly, the Thalassians have also announced they're joining the Human Alliance. They're requesting immediate protection for their trading fleets. How many members does that leave us? Zephyra asked in a small voice. Including yourselves, 6 species control the council, but the hegemony of Krex has been making inquiries about withdrawal procedures, and the Void Swimmers haven't attended a session in 2 months. Counselor Hivemind stood up slowly. I propose we face reality. The council as we knew it is finished. The humans have built something better, and our members are abandoning us to join them. What are you suggesting? Veltar asked. That we swallow our pride and ask the humans for terms, before we have nothing left to bargain with. The chamber fell silent except for the hum of life support systems. The proud Galactic Council, rulers of space for 3 millennia, was preparing to beg for mercy from the species they had dismissed as primitive just 18 months ago. Contact the humans, Veltar said finally, his voice barely a whisper. Tell them the council requests an emergency meeting to discuss mutual interests. As the aide hurried away to send the message, the remaining counselors sat in stunned silence. Their empire was crumbling, their military was obsolete, and their only hope lay with the humans they had tried to subjugate. The galaxy had turned upside down, and there was no way back. Ambassador Lee Taman walked through the corridors of Nexus Prime Station for the 2nd time in 2 years. But everything had changed. Where once aliens had stared at humans with contempt or amusement, now they watched with respect and curiosity. Some even bowed slightly as he passed. The station itself looked different too. Fewer ships docked at the ports and many sections appeared to be closed or abandoned. The grand corridors that once bustled with activity from dozens of species now felt empty and hollow. Behind Lee Taman walked President An Cheong, a calm woman in her 50s who led Earth's government. Fleet Admiral Yu Sungjin followed, his uniform displaying the insignia of the Human Alliance Defense Force. Dr. Shin Minwoo, their chief economist, carried a tablet filled with data that would shock the council. It's smaller than I expected, President An Cheong observed as they approached the council chamber. Half their members have left, Lee Taman explained. The Thalassians were the last major species to abandon them. Now only 6 members remain, and 2 of those are considering withdrawal. Fleet Admiral Yu Sungjin smiled grimly. Amazing what 2 years can do. When you walked out of here, they thought they were masters of the galaxy. Now they're begging us to save them. The chamber doors opened, and the sight inside was almost pathetic. 6 aliens sat in the vast space designed for dozens. Their seats seemed lost in the enormous room, like children playing in adult furniture. Counselor Veltar stood as the humans entered. His blue skin looked gray and worn, and his voice lacked its former arrogance. Ambassador Lee Taman, President An Cheong, thank you for agreeing to meet with us. Counselor Veltar, Lee Taman replied politely, taking his place at the center of the chamber. This time he wasn't standing as a supplicant, but as an equal. You requested this meeting to discuss mutual interests. Yes, we... Veltar paused, struggling with words he had never expected to say. We believe that our organizations might benefit from closer cooperation. Dr. Shin Minwoo looked up from his tablet. According to our analysis, the Council's territory has shrunk by 70% in the last 18 months. Your economic output has dropped by 80%. 17 of your former members have joined the Human Alliance, and 3 more have applied for membership. The stark numbers hit the remaining counselors like physical blows. Counselor Zephyra's 6 arms fidgeted nervously. We faced some challenges, yes, but we believe that working together, we could overcome them. President An Chae-young stepped forward. What exactly are you proposing? Veltar took a deep breath. A merger. The Council and the Human Alliance could combine our resources and expertise. Together we would be stronger than either organization alone. A merger implies equality, Fleet Admiral Yu Seung-jin pointed out. 2 years ago you offered us junior status for 500 years. What's changed? The question hung in the air like a challenge. Finally, Counselor Hivemind spoke up. We underestimated humanity. We thought technological superiority meant we were superior beings. We were wrong. How wrong? Lee Taman asked. Counselor Krogash shifted uncomfortably in his seat. Our fleets have been defeated in every engagement. Our member species prefer human protection to ours. Our technology has stagnated while yours advances daily. Dr. Shin Minwoo consulted his tablet again. The territories under Human Alliance protection have 0 pirate attacks, 95% trade growth, and a peace index that's the highest in recorded galactic history. Council territories have seen 300% increase in piracy, negative economic growth, and ongoing conflicts on 12 worlds. We know, Zephyra said quietly. We've seen the reports. President An Chae-young walked slowly around the chamber, her footsteps echoing in the vast space. 2 years ago, you demanded that humanity disarm completely and surrender our technology. You wanted 10% of our production as tribute and insisted we relocate our capital to a world you would choose. We were overzealous in our terms, Veltar admitted. You were offering slavery and calling it membership, Lee Taman corrected. The question now is, what can you offer us that we don't already have? The counselors exchanged desperate glances. We have experience, Krogash tried. 3,000 years of governing galactic civilization. 3,000 years of governing through fear and oppression, Fleet Admiral Yu Seung-jin replied. We've seen your records. The species that joined your council became weaker, not stronger. You kept them dependent instead of helping them grow. That's not entirely fair, Zephyra protested weakly. Dr. Shin Minwoo pulled up data on his tablet. The Kethri had a space program and 6 colonies when they joined the council 2 centuries ago. Under your guidance, they were restricted to their home system and barely able to feed themselves. In 6 months under Human Alliance protection, they've established new colonies on 8 worlds and their population has grown by 30%. The silence that followed was deafening. Every council member knew the accusations were true. President An Chae-young stopped walking and faced the council directly. You're asking us to save you. But from what? You've created every problem you're facing. The piracy, the rebellions, the economic collapse, these are consequences of your own policies. What would you have us do? Veltar asked desperately. Disband the council? Surrender everything we've built? What have you built? Lee Taman asked genuinely. Look around this chamber. Look at your territory. Look at your former members. What legacy are you protecting? The question cut deep because they all knew the answer. The council had built nothing lasting. No great works of art, no magnificent cities, no technological marvels. They had simply maintained power for its own sake. Fleet Admiral Yu Seung-jin stepped forward. However, the Human Alliance believes in redemption. We're willing to consider your application for membership. Our application? Veltar looked shocked. Yes. The 6 species you represent could apply to join the Human Alliance as individual members. You would have the same rights and responsibilities as any other member species. But we are the Galactic Council. Krogash protested. Were, Dr. Shin Minwoo corrected. Past tense. The Council as a governing body is finished, but the species that made up the Council could have a future in the Alliance. President An Chae-young nodded. We would need to see evidence of genuine reform. Your military forces would be integrated into Alliance defense. Your worlds would need to accept Alliance standards for civil rights and fair governance, and there would be a probationary period. How long? Zephyra asked quietly. 50 years, Lee Taman said. During that time, you would have full membership rights but no voting authority on Alliance policy. After 50 years, if you've proven your commitment to our values, you would become full members. The irony was perfect. The Council had demanded 500 years of human submission. Now humanity was offering them 50 years to prove they had changed. What about our leadership positions? Veltar asked. What about them? President An Chae-young replied. The alliance is governed by elected representatives from member species. If your people want to elect you as their representative, that's their choice. You're asking us to give up everything, Hivemind said. We're asking you to give up a system that was already failing, Fleet Admiral Yu Sungjin corrected. In return, you get a chance to be part of something that actually works. Dr. Shin Minwoo showed them his tablet one more time. Alliance worlds have seen average economic growth of 40% annually. Population growth is steady and sustainable. Technological advancement is shared freely among all members. And most importantly, every species maintains its cultural identity while contributing to the common good. Lee Taemin walked to the great window overlooking space. In the distance, ships from dozens of species moved in peaceful formation. Kethri craft alongside human vessels. Morden warships protecting Zalani traders. Thalassian explorers working with human scientists. 2 years ago, you told us we needed you to survive among the stars, he said without turning around. You were wrong. We didn't need you, you needed us. The galaxy is vast enough for everyone to prosper, but only if we work together as equals. He turned back to face the council. The offer stands. You can join the alliance as member species and help build something better than either of our civilizations could create alone. Or you can continue as you are and face whatever future awaits the proud and isolated. President An Chae-young checked her watch. We'll give you 72 hours to decide. After that, the offer expires. As the human delegation left the chamber, the 6 remaining council members sat in stunned silence. Outside the great windows, the ships of the human alliance continued their work of building a better galaxy, with or without them. The age of the Galactic Council was over. The age of cooperation and mutual respect had begun.